Hannah woke up to the sound of growling. She opened her eyes and saw 10 pairs of golden eyes staring at her. The Fenrithi were awake. They were sitting up, wrapped in her blankets, and they were all looking at her like she was something strange and confusing. The young one with the rust-colored markings spoke first. His voice was rough, like rocks grinding together. "You are the one who brought us here." It was not a question. Hannah nodded slowly. She did not move from her chair. She knew how dangerous Fenrithi could be, and she was too tired to run, even if she wanted to. "Yes, I found you in the ravine. You were freezing." The Fenrithi looked at each other. Something passed between them, some silent communication that Hannah could not understand. Then the young one spoke again. "I am Kova. I am a scout of the Iron Fang Pack." He pointed to the others one by one. "This is Thane, our weapons master. Bren and Mira, our hunters. Cass and Nolan, our warriors. Petra, our healer. Dax and Gwen, our guards." Hannah noticed that he did not introduce the white-furred one with the scars. The old male sat apart from the others, leaning against the wall. His pale eyes watched everything, but he said nothing. "I am Dr. Hannah Cole," she said. "I am a researcher. I study the life forms on this moon." "You are human," Kova said. The way he said, it made it sound like an insult. "Yes, humans are Omega species. You are weak. You are small. You have no claws, no fangs, no strength." Kova tilted his head, his golden eyes narrow. "How did you carry us?" Hannah shrugged. She honestly did not know the answer herself. "I just did. One at a time. It took me most of the night." The Fenrithi called Thane laughed. It was a harsh sound like barking. "One at a time. You carried 10 Fenrithi warriors through a killing storm, one at a time, and you did not die?" "I almost did," Hannah admitted. "But I did not." The Fenrithi looked at each other again. This time, their expressions were different. There was less suspicion and more curiosity. The female named Mira leaned forward. Her fur was dark brown, almost black, and her eyes were softer than the others. "Why did you do it? You did not know us. We are Fenrithi. Most species fear us. Most species would have left us to die." Hannah thought about the question for a long moment. She thought about her parents back on Earth, who had raised her to be kind. She thought about all the times she had been treated badly because she was human, because she was Omega, because she was small and weak and nobody important. "Because it was the right thing to do," she said finally. "You needed help. I could help. So I did." The room was silent. Even the wind outside seemed to quiet down for a moment. Then the white-furred male spoke for the first time. His voice was deep and calm, like water running over stones. "What is your rank, Dr. Cole?" Hannah blinked at the strange question. "I do not have a rank. I am just a researcher. Level 3, I suppose. That is the lowest level for scientists in the Coalition. And your supervisor? The one who ordered you to stay inside?" Hannah stiffened. She had hoped they had not heard that communication. "Commander Zeth. He's a Volcari. He runs this sector. He told you not to come for us." "Yes, but you came anyway." "Yes." The white-furred male nodded slowly. Something like respect flickered in his pale eyes. "You risked your position. You risked your life. You disobeyed a direct order from a superior species, all to save strangers who might have killed you when they woke." Hannah felt her face grow warm. "I did not think about any of that. I just saw people dying, and I tried to help." "That, the white-furred male said quietly, is exactly why it matters." Over the next 2 days, the storm continued to rage outside. Hannah's small station became crowded with 11 bodies, but no one complained. The Fenrithi helped where they could. They cleaned weapons that Hannah did not know they had. They took turns watching the door. They ate the food Hannah prepared and did not say anything about how strange human cooking tasted. Kova attached himself to Hannah like a shadow. He followed her around the station, asking questions about everything. What did this machine do? Why did humans eat vegetables? How did her scanner work? Why did she have so many books? Books are for learning, Hannah explained, showing him a heavy volume about Arctic biology. I read them to understand things better. Kova sniffed the book suspiciously. Fenrithi do not read. We learn from our elders. We learn from doing. That is another way to learn, Hannah agreed. The books let you learn from people you have never met. Even people who died long ago. Kova thought about this for a long time. Then he asked if he could borrow one of her books. Hannah gave him the simplest one she had, a children's guide to Earth animals. She found him later, sitting by the heating unit, slowly sounding out the words. The others warmed to her as well. Thane challenged her to arm wrestling and laughed when she lost in half a second. Mira taught her a Fenrithi hunting song, a low melody that made Hannah's chest vibrate. Even the stern warriors, Cass and Nolan, nodded at her when she passed, which she learned was a sign of respect. But the white-furred male remained apart. He watched. He listened. He rarely spoke except to give quiet orders to the others. Hannah noticed that the other Fenrithi treated him differently. They never turned their backs to him. They lowered their heads when he looked at them. They called him by name. Fen or Ice. On the third night, Hannah could not sleep. She got up quietly and went to the small window to watch the snow. The storm was finally weakening. She could see stars through the gaps in the clouds. She heard movement behind her and turned to find Fenris standing there. He moved without sound, like a ghost made of white fur and old scars. "You should rest," he said. "So should you." The corner of his mouth twitched. It might have been a smile. "I have slept enough. I have been thinking." "About what?" "About you. About what you did." He moved to stand beside her at the window. Even wrapped in a blanket, he was huge. His shoulders were twice as wide as hers. His hands could have crushed her skull without effort. "My people have a concept called the life debt. Do you know what that is?" Hannah shook her head. "When someone saves your life, you owe them a debt that can never be fully repaid. It is sacred to us. It binds the saved to the Savior until death." His pale eyes met hers. "You saved 10 Fenrithi. 10 life debts. Do you understand how rare that is?" "I was not looking for a reward," Hannah said quickly. "I did not do it for any kind of debt. I know. That is why the debt is real." Fenris turned back to the window. Most species in this galaxy act from self-interest. They calculate profit and loss. They weigh risk and reward. They would have seen us dying and asked themselves what they could gain by helping. And what would they have decided? That we were not worth the risk. Fenrithi are dangerous. We have many enemies. Saving us could bring trouble. Easier to let us die and claim the storm was too strong. Hannah felt a cold knot form in her stomach. She had not thought about any of that. She had not thought about enemies or danger or politics. She had just seen people dying. "Your people," Fenris continued, "are called Omega for a reason. The Coalition sees you as the lowest, the weakest, the least important." He paused. "They are wrong." "What do you mean?" "Strength is not just about muscles and weapons. It is not just about ships and technology. True strength is about will, about heart, about doing what is right even when it costs you everything." He looked at her again, and his pale eyes were intense. "You have that strength, Dr. Cole. You have more of it than most warriors I have known." Hannah did not know what to say. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. No one had ever looked at her like she was anything more than a small, weak human. "The storm will clear tomorrow," Fenris said. "Rescue ships will come. And when they do, things will change. But I want you to know something before that happens." "What?" Fenris was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You saved my life. I do not forget. I do not forgive debts left unpaid. Whatever comes next, remember that." He turned and walked back to his place by the wall, leaving Hannah alone at the window. She stood there for a long time, watching the stars appear one by one through the fading storm. She did not understand what Fenris had meant. She did not know why his words had sounded so heavy, so important, but she had a feeling that her life was about to change in ways she could not imagine. The storm was ending, and something new was beginning. The snow fell hard on the frozen moon called Arcturus 7. The wind screamed like a wounded animal. The temperature dropped so low that metal cracked and engines died. It was the worst storm the moon had seen in 50 years. Dr. Hannah Cole sat alone in her small research station. She watched the white wall of snow through her window. She had been on this moon for 3 years now. She studied the plants and animals that lived in the ice. She wrote reports. She sent data back to Earth. It was lonely work, but she liked it. Hannah was what the galaxy called an Omega. Humans were new to space. They had only joined the Galactic Coalition 20 years ago. They had no great ships. They had no powerful weapons. They had no ancient knowledge to share. The other species looked down on them. Humans were small. Humans were weak. Humans were nothing special. Hannah had heard it all before. She did not let it bother her anymore. Her scanner beeped. She looked at the screen and saw 10 small dots moving slowly through the storm. They were life signs. Something was alive out there in the killing cold. She checked the readings again. The dots were getting weaker. Whatever was out there, it was dying. Hannah stood up and walked to her equipment locker. She pulled out her thermal suit and started putting it on. The suit was old and patched in several places, but it would keep her alive in the cold for a few hours. Her communicator crackled. The voice of Commander Zeth came through, harsh and impatient. Zeth was a Volcari, one of the tall blue-skinned species that ran the research division. He was Hannah's supervisor, and he did not like humans. "Dr. Cole, sensors show you are preparing to go outside. Explain yourself." "There are life signs in the ravine, Commander. 10 of them. They are fading fast. You will stay inside. That is an order. The storm is too dangerous. They will die if I do nothing. Then they will die. You are not authorized to risk Coalition equipment on a rescue mission. Stay inside." The communicator went silent. Hannah stood there for a long moment, holding her helmet in her hands. She thought about the 10 dots on her scanner. She thought about how cold it was outside. She thought about Commander Zeth and his orders. Then she put on her helmet and walked out into the storm. The wind hit her like a fist. She could not see more than a few feet in any direction. The snow was so thick that it felt like swimming through white water. Each step was a fight. Each breath was painful. She followed her scanner toward the ravine. It took her 30 minutes to walk what should have taken 5. When she finally reached the edge and looked down, her heart nearly stopped. They were Fenrithi. Hannah had never seen a Fenrithi in person before. She had only seen pictures and videos. They were wolf-like creatures that walked on 2 legs. They had silver fur and golden eyes and teeth that could bite through steel. They were warriors. They were hunters. They were one of the most feared species in the galaxy. And here were 10 of them, lying in the snow like dead leaves. Their ship must have crashed somewhere nearby. Hannah could see burn marks on their armor and frost forming on their fur. They had tried to find shelter, but the storm had caught them. Now they were freezing to death. Hannah did not think about what she was doing. She did not think about how dangerous Fenrithi were. She did not think about Commander Zeth and his orders. She simply climbed down into the ravine and grabbed the nearest Fenrithi by the arms. He was heavy. So heavy. He must have weighed 300 pounds, maybe more. Hannah was small, even for a human. She weighed barely half of that. but she planted her feet in the snow and pulled. She pulled until her muscles burned. She pulled until her back screamed. She pulled until she thought her arms would tear from her body. Slowly, inch by inch, she dragged him up the slope. It took her 20 minutes to get the first Fenrithy to her station. She left him on the floor near the heating unit and went back out into the storm. The second Fenrithy was even heavier than the first. He had white fur streaked with old scars and even unconscious. His face looked hard and dangerous. Hannah dragged him through the snow. She fell twice. She got up twice. She kept going. The third Fenrithy was a young one with rust-colored markings on his muzzle. He stirred when she grabbed him, his golden eyes opening just a crack. "Who?" he whispered. "Save your strength," Hannah said. "I am going to get you somewhere warm." She dragged him up the slope. Her legs were shaking now. Her lungs felt like they were full of broken glass. The cold had seeped through her suit and into her bones. But she did not stop. Fourth Fenrithy. Fifth. Sixth. Hannah lost track of time. The world became nothing but snow and wind, and the weight of bodies that she could barely move. Her arms stopped hurting after a while. They went numb instead. That scared her more than the pain. Seventh. Eighth. Ninth. The last Fenrithy was a female with dark gray fur. She was lighter than the others, but by now Hannah had nothing left. She fell to her knees in the snow and could not get up. The wind howled around her. The cold pressed down like a heavy blanket. Hannah thought about giving up. She thought about how easy it would be to just lie down and sleep. The cold would take her, and it would not even hurt. But then she thought about the 9 Fenrithy in her station. She thought about how far she had come. She thought about all the people who said humans were weak and useless and not worth anything. She grabbed a female Fenrithy and started crawling. It took her an hour to drag that last body to her station. When she finally got inside and closed the door behind her, she collapsed on the floor and could not move. Her suit was covered in ice. Her fingers were blue. She could not feel her feet at all, but she was alive. And so were the 10 Fenrithy lying around her. Hannah forced herself to stand. She turned the heating system up as high as it would go. She found blankets and wrapped them around the frozen bodies. She heated water and made warm broth. When some of the Fenrithy started to wake, she helped them drink. She worked through the night. She checked their temperatures. She treated their wounds. She kept the fire burning and the water warm. She did not sleep. She did not rest. She did everything she could to keep them alive. By morning, the storm had weakened. The wind still blew, but the snow had slowed. Hannah sat in her chair, too tired to move. Her body ached in places she did not know could ache. Her hands were raw and blistered from the cold, but all 10 Fenrithy were breathing. All 10 were stable. All 10 were going to live. Hannah closed her eyes and let out a long breath. She had done it. She did not know why she had done it. She did not know what would happen next. But she had saved 10 lives, and that was enough. She did not know that one of those lives belonged to the most powerful being in the Fenrithy Dominion. She did not know that her small act of kindness would change the galaxy forever. She was just a human. An omega. A nobody. But sometimes, nobodies did the most important things. The rescue ships arrived at dawn. Hannah heard them before she saw them. The deep rumble of engines shook the walls of her small station. She went to the window and felt her breath catch in her throat. 3 warships hung in the sky. They were black as night, sleek and deadly, covered in weapons that could destroy cities. The symbol on their hulls was a snarling wolf head made of silver. These were not coalition ships. These were Fenrithy warships, and they looked like they had come prepared for war. The other Fenrithy were already moving. They threw off their blankets and gathered their weapons. Kova's face had changed. The curious, playful expression was gone, replaced by the hard look of a soldier. Even gentle Myra moved with a predator's grace as she checked her blade. Only Fenris remained still. He stood by the door, his white fur gleaming in the morning light, and watched Hannah with those pale eyes. "Do not be afraid," he said. "They are here for us." "Those ships could destroy this entire moon," Hannah said. Her voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Yes, they could." Fenris moved toward the door. "But they will not. Come with me." Hannah followed him outside. The cold hit her immediately, but it was nothing compared to the storm. The snow had stopped. The sky was clear and blue, and dropping out of that sky came a shuttle, black and sleek, landing in the snow 50 feet from her station. The door opened. Fenrithi soldiers poured out, 20 of them, all armed with weapons that hummed with deadly energy. They wore black armor marked with the silver wolf. They moved in perfect formation, surrounding the station in seconds. Then they saw Fenris. Every single soldier dropped to their knees. They pressed their foreheads to the snow. They did not move. They did not speak. They barely seemed to breathe. Hannah stared at them, then at Fenris. "What is happening?" Fenris did not answer. He walked forward, past the kneeling soldiers, toward an older Fenrithi who had just stepped out of the shuttle. This one wore armor covered in medals and ribbons. His fur was gray with age, and he walked with a slight limp. "Lord Alpha," the gray one said. His voice shook. "We thought you were dead. When your transport disappeared, we feared the worst." Lord Alpha. Hannah felt the world tilt beneath her feet. She looked at Fenris with new eyes. Lord Alpha. That was the title of the supreme leader of all Fenrithi, the ruler of 100 worlds, the commander of the mightiest military force in 3 sectors, and she had wrapped him in a blanket and fed him soup. Fenri spoke quietly to the gray Fenrithi. Hannah could not hear what he said, but she saw the gray one's eyes go wide. He looked at Hannah. He looked back at Fenris. Then he dropped to his knees as well. More shuttles landed. More soldiers arrived. The quiet moon became crowded with black armored warriors and the thunder of engines. Someone set up a command tent. Someone else started scanning for survivors from the crashed transport. And every single one of them, kept glancing at Hannah. Kova appeared at her side. He was grinning, showing his sharp teeth. "You did not know who he was." "No, I did not." "You treated the Alpha Prime like a common warrior. You gave him orders. You told him to drink his broth." Kova laughed. "Do you know what the punishment is for giving orders to the Alpha Prime?" Hannah felt sick. "I do not want to know. Death, usually a painful one." Kova laughed again. "But you will not die. You saved his life. You saved all of our lives. The debt protects you." Before Hannah could respond, a new shuttle landed. This one was different from the others. It was white and blue, marked with the symbol of the Galactic Coalition. The door opened and Commander Zeth stepped out. The Volcari was tall and thin, with blue skin and 4 arms that he kept folded across his chest. He looked at the Fenrithi soldiers with barely hidden fear. He looked at the warships in the sky. Then he saw Hannah and his fear turned to anger. "Dr. Cole." His voice was sharp as a blade. "You disobeyed a direct order. You left your station during a level 5 storm. You risked Coalition property without authorization. Do you have anything to say for yourself?" Hannah opened her mouth to speak, but she never got the chance. "I have something to say." Fenris appeared beside her. He moved so quietly that even Zeth jumped back in surprise. The Alpha Prime was no longer wearing a blanket. He wore black armor now, marked with silver and gold. A cape of white fur hung from his shoulders. He looked like what he was, the most powerful warrior in the galaxy. "This human," Fenris said, his voice cold as winter, saved the lives of 10 Fenrethi. She saved my life. She did this alone, in a killing storm, against your direct orders. And you wish to punish her? Zeth's blue skin went pale. My Lord Alpha, I did not know. I could not have known. You knew that people were dying. You knew that she could help. And you told her to let them die because they were not worth the risk. Fenris took a step forward. Zeth took a step back. Is that the value the Coalition places on life? Is that the honor of your great civilization? It was protocol, Zeth stammered. Standard procedure during severe weather events. I was following regulations. Regulations. Fenris said the word like it tasted bad. Your regulations would have killed 10 warriors. Your regulations would have started a war between the Fenrethi Dominion and your coalition. Do you understand that? Do you understand what happens when an Alpha Prime dies on foreign soil? Zeth looked like he was about to faint. His 4 hands clutched at each other nervously. I did not. This human understood something that you did not, Commander. She understood that some things are more important than regulations. More important than protocol. More important than risk calculations. Fenris placed a hand on Hannah's shoulder. It was heavy and warm. She understood that life has value. All life. Even the lives of strangers who might be enemies. The gray-furred Fenrethi stepped forward. My Lord Alpha, what are your orders regarding the Valkyrie? For a long moment, Fenris said nothing. Zeth trembled visibly. Hannah could hear the hum of weapons powering up around them. One word from Fenris and Commander Zeth would cease to exist. Then Fenris shook his head. Let him go. He's not worth the trouble. But his superiors will hear of this. The Coalition Council will know how their officers treat life-or-death situations. They will know that their regulations almost started a war. Zeth practically ran back to his shuttle. Within minutes, he was gone, his ship vanishing into the sky like a scared bird. Hannah let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. You did not have to do that. Yes, I did. Fenris removed his hand from her shoulder and turned to face her. Dr. Cole, among my people, there is a ceremony for those who saved the life of an Alpha. It has not been performed in 300 years. But today, I invoke it. He reached into his armor and pulled out something small and dark. It was a medallion made of black metal, shaped like a wolf's head. Strange symbols were carved around the edges. It hung from a chain of silver links. This is the mark of the Alpha, Fenris said. It names you as a friend of the Fenrethi people. It places you under my personal protection. Any who harm you will answer to me. Any who threaten you will face the full might of the Dominion. He placed the medallion in Hannah's hands. It was heavier than it looked. It felt warm, almost alive. I cannot accept this, Hannah said. I did not save you for a reward. I know. That is why you deserve it. Fenris closed her fingers around the medallion. You are no longer Omega, Dr. Cole. You are no longer the lowest. From this day forward, you carry my name and my honor. Use it wisely. The Fenrethi soldiers around them began to howl. It was a sound that shook the air, a chorus of voices raised in celebration. Kova was howling the loudest, his rust-colored fur bristling with pride. Even the stunned warriors joined in. Hannah stood in the middle of it all, holding the mark of the Alpha. Feeling the weight of what had just happened settle on her shoulders. She had gone out into a storm to save strangers. Now the whole galaxy would know her name. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Within 3 days. Every news station in Coalition space was talking about the human woman who had saved the Fenrethi Alpha Prime. They showed pictures of Hannah's small research station. They showed footage of the Fenrethi warships hovering over the frozen moon. They interviewed experts who could not believe what had happened. A human. and Omega. The lowest of the low, she had saved the most powerful being in the Fenrethi Dominion. Hannah tried to ignore it all. She went back to her research. She collected samples. She wrote reports. She pretended that nothing had changed. But everything had changed, and she could not pretend forever. The messages started coming in thousands. Some were from scientists who wanted to interview her. Some were from politicians who wanted to meet her. Some were from ordinary people who just wanted to say thank you. And some were from people who hated her for what she had done. "You should have let them die," one message said. "The Fenrethi are monsters. They have killed millions. You saved a murderer." Hannah deleted that message. She deleted hundreds like it. But the words stayed in her head, crawling around like insects. 2 weeks after the rescue, a shuttle landed outside her station. It was not a Fenrethi ship this time. It was human. The door opened and a woman stepped out. She was tall and thin, with gray hair and sharp eyes. She wore the uniform of a coalition ambassador. "Dr. Cole," the woman said, "I am Ambassador Linda Hayes. I represent Earth in the Coalition Council. May I come in?" Hannah let her in. She made tea because she did not know what else to do. They sat across from each other at Hannah's small table, and Linda Hayes looked around the cramped station with an expression that Hannah could not read. "You have caused quite a problem," the ambassador said. "I saved 10 lives. You saved 10 Fenrethi lives, including their supreme leader. Do you know what that means for Earth?" Hannah shook her head. She had been so busy trying to ignore the news that she had not thought about the bigger picture. "The Fenrethi Dominion has announced a formal alliance with humanity," Linda said. "They are offering us trade agreements, technology exchanges, military protection. Things that Earth has been begging for since we joined the coalition. Things that other species have been denying us for 20 years. Hannah blinked. "That sounds good. It is good. It is very good. But it has also made us enemies." Linda leaned forward, her sharp eyes fixed on Hannah's face. "The Valkyrie are furious. They have been trying to keep humanity weak for decades. Now we have the backing of the most powerful military in 3 sectors. They see it as a threat. What does that have to do with me?" "Everything. You are the symbol now. The face of human Fenrethi relations. Where you go, attention follows. What you do matters." Linda paused. "The council wants you to come to the capital. They want you to speak at the Grand Assembly. They want to show the galaxy that humans and Fenrethi can work together." Hannah's stomach turned. She hated crowds. She hated speeches. She hated being the center of attention. "I am just a researcher. I am not a politician. You were just a researcher. Now you are something more." Linda stood up and placed a card on the table. "Think about it. The shuttle leaves in 3 days. I hope you will be on it." She left without saying goodbye. Hannah sat alone in her station, staring at the card. It had the seal of the Coalition Council on it, gold and silver, very official. Very important. She thought about throwing it away. She thought about staying on her frozen moon forever, hiding from the galaxy and its problems. But she knew she could not do that. She had made a choice when she walked into that storm. Now she had to live with the consequences. The next day, Tova arrived. He came alone, in a small shuttle painted with the colors of the Eye of Fangpak. He burst into Hannah's station like a happy hurricane, grabbing her in a hug that nearly broke her ribs. "Hannah," he shouted. "I have missed you. Tova, you are crushing me." He let her go, grinning his sharp-toothed grin. "I am sorry. I forget how fragile humans are. But look at you. You are famous now. Everyone in the Dominion knows your name." "Everyone in the galaxy knows my name," Hannah said tiredly. "That is the problem." Tova's grin faded. He tilted his head, his golden eyes concerned. You are not happy. I am overwhelmed. I did not ask for any of this. I just wanted to help people. And you did help people. You helped us. Tova sat down on the floor, crossing his legs beneath him. Even sitting, he was almost as tall as Hannah standing. Is that not enough? I do not know anymore. Hannah sat down across from him. The coalition wants me to give speeches. The Valkyrie want me dead. Half the galaxy thinks I am a hero, and the other half thinks I am a traitor. I do not know how to handle any of it. Kova was quiet for a moment. Then he said, in my pack, we have a saying. The wolf who runs from the storm gets wet. The wolf who faces the storm gets wet too. But only one of them chooses their path. Hannah thought about that. So I should face it. You should decide what you want, not what others want for you. You saved the Alpha Prime because you chose to. No one made you do it. No one could have made you do it. Tova leaned forward. What do you choose now? Before Hannah could answer, her communicator beeped. She looked at the screen and felt her heart jump. The message was simple. Dr. Cole, please join me for dinner tonight. My ship will arrive at sunset. Fenris. Tova read the message over her shoulder and let out a low whistle. The Alpha Prime is inviting you to dinner. That is a great honor. What does it mean? It means he wants to talk to you, privately, away from politics and ceremonies. Kova grinned again. It also means he likes you. The Alpha does not invite people to dinner. He summons them to meetings. He commands them to audiences. He does not invite. Hannah looked at the message again. Her reflection stared back at her from the dark screen. She looked tired. She looked scared. But somewhere underneath all that, she also looked determined. I will go, she said. The ship arrived at sunset, just as the message had promised. It was smaller than the warships, elegant instead of deadly, black and silver with the mark of the Alpha on its hull. Hannah climbed aboard and found herself in a room unlike anything she had ever seen. The walls were covered in tapestries, showing Fenrithi history. Great battles, ancient heroes, worlds being conquered and worlds being freed. Soft light glowed from hidden sources. A table was set with food that smelled strange but wonderful, and at the head of the table sat Fenris. He was not wearing armor tonight. He wore simple clothes, dark and comfortable. Without the cape and medals, he looked almost ordinary, almost like any other Fenrithi, but his eyes gave him away. Those pale eyes that had seen centuries of war, centuries of death, centuries of ruling an empire of wolves. Those eyes watched Hannah as she entered, and they saw everything. Please sit, he said. I hope you are hungry. Hannah sat across from him. The food was Fenrithi cuisine, things she had never eaten before. Fenris explained each dish as they ate, telling her where it came from and what it meant. He spoke softly, patiently, like a teacher with a curious student. After dinner, they moved to a balcony that looked out over the frozen landscape of Arcturus 7. The stars were bright overhead. The snow glittered like diamonds in the moonlight. You are afraid, Fenris said. It was not a question. Yes. Of what? Hannah thought about it. Of losing myself. I was happy being nobody. I liked my quiet life. Now, everyone wants something from me. Everyone expects something. I do not know how to be what they need. Fenris nodded slowly. When I became Alpha Prime, I felt the same way. I was a warrior, not a ruler. I knew how to fight, how to kill, how to survive. I did not know how to lead millions. I did not know how to make decisions that would affect worlds. How did you learn? I made mistakes. Many mistakes. People died because of my errors. Worlds suffered because of my choices. His pale eyes were distant, lost in memory. But I also learned something important. The same thing you learned in that storm. What is that? that the only thing you can control is yourself. You cannot control what others think of you. You cannot control what they expect. You can only control what you do and why you do it. He turned to look at her. You walked into that storm because you believed it was right. That belief has not changed. Hold on to it. Let it guide you. Hannah felt something loosen in her chest. The fear was still there, but it felt smaller now, more manageable. Will you help me? She asked. Fenrir smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine, and it transformed his scarred face into something almost gentle. I already am, he said, and I always will. The Grand Assembly of the Galactic Coalition met once every standard year on the capital world of Nova Prime. Representatives from 300 species gathered in a building that could hold millions. They debated laws and treaties. They settled disputes and declared wars. They decided the fate of civilizations. Hannah had never been to Nova Prime before. She had never left her sector before. Now she stood in the center of the Grand Assembly, wearing a simple dress and the black medallion of the Alpha, while billions of beings watched her through screens and sensors across the galaxy. Her throat was dry. Her hands were shaking. But she did not run. The Speaker of the Assembly, an ancient being made of crystal and light, called the session to order. Today we recognize a new chapter in galactic history, the alliance between the Fenrithi Dominion and the human species of Earth. We call upon Dr. Hannah Cole to address this assembly. Hannah stepped forward to the speaking platform. The assembly stretched out before her in every direction, rising up in tiers that seemed to go on forever. She could see Valkyrie delegates glaring at her with their forearms crossed. She could see curious faces and hostile faces and faces she could not read at all. She took a deep breath and began to speak. 1 month ago, I was nobody important. I was a researcher on a frozen moon, studying plants and animals that most of the galaxy has never heard of. I had no power. I had no influence. I had nothing to offer anyone. A voice echoed through the vast chamber. Millions of ears and sensors listened. Then a storm came, and I found 10 people dying in the snow. I did not know who they were. I did not know if they were dangerous. I only knew that they needed help, and I was the only one who could give it. She paused, remembering that terrible night. The weight of bodies in her arms, the cold that cut through her suit, the moment when she almost gave up. I have been told that what I did was brave. I have been told that it was foolish. I have been told that I should have let them die because they were Fenrithi, because they were warriors, because they had enemies who might become my enemies. Hannah shook her head. But I do not believe that life should be measured by politics. I do not believe that helping someone should depend on what they can give you in return. She looked out at the assembly, at the 300 species gathered from across the stars. Some of them had been at war with each other for centuries. Some of them barely spoke to each other. Some of them thought humans were barely worth noticing. Humans are new to this galaxy. We do not have great ships or ancient technology. We do not have empires or armies. We are called Omega because we are the newest and the smallest and the weakest. Hannah lifted her chin. But we have something else. We have the ability to see past our differences. We have the courage to help strangers. We have the faith that kindness matters, even when it is not rewarded. The Valkyrie delegates were whispering to each other, their expressions dark. Other delegates leaned forward with interest. The crystal speaker watched with eyes that glowed like distant stars. I did not save the Alpha Prime because I wanted an alliance. I did not save him because I wanted fame or power. I saved him because he was dying and I could help. That is all. That is everything. Hannah spread her hands. If that makes humans foolish, then I am proud to be foolish. If that makes us weak, then I am proud to be weak. because I believe that a galaxy built on kindness is stronger than one built on fear." She stopped speaking. The assembly was silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Then, from somewhere in the upper tiers, a sound began. It was a howl, low and powerful, rising through the air like a wave. More voices joined it. The Fenrithi delegation was on their feet, dozens of wolf-like figures raising their voices to the ceiling. Fenris stood at their center. He was wearing his full ceremonial armor, silver and gold and black. He howled with his people, and his pale eyes never left Hannah's face. Other delegates began to react. Some clapped their hands or tentacles or other limbs. Some made sounds of approval in languages Hannah did not understand. The crystal speaker glowed brighter, which she later learned was a sign of respect. Not everyone approved. The Valkyrie delegates left the chamber without a word. A few other species followed them. But most stayed, and most seemed moved by what Hannah had said. The session continued for hours after that. Treaties were discussed. Trade agreements were signed. The formal alliance between Earth and the Fenrithi Dominion was recorded in the Great Archives. By the time it was over, Hannah was exhausted, her feet aching and her voice hoarse. She found Kova waiting for her outside the chamber. He was grinning his usual grin, bouncing on his feet like an excited child. "You were amazing," he said. "Everyone is talking about you. The delegates, the reporters, everyone. They say humans are different now. They say we are allies worth having." "That is good," Hannah said tiredly. "I think it is very good. The Dominion has not had a true ally in 500 years. We have had subjects and servants and enemies, but never friends." Kova's grin softened into something more serious. "You gave us friends, Hannah. You gave us hope." Before she could respond, Fenris appeared. He moved through the crowd like a ship through water, other beings parting to let him pass. He stopped in front of Hannah and looked at her for a long moment. "You spoke well," he said. "I spoke from my heart." "I know. That is why it worked." He placed a hand on her shoulder, the same gesture he had used on the frozen moon. "Walk with me." They walked through the halls of the Great Assembly building, past statues and paintings and windows that looked out on the glittering city below. Tova followed at a distance, giving them privacy. "What happens now?" Hannah asked. "Now the real work begins. Treaties are just words on screens. Alliances are just promises. The truth of any relationship is proven over time, through actions and choices and sacrifices." Fenris stopped at a wide window. The sun was setting over Nova Prime, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Will you help me with that work?" Hannah looked at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I want you to be an advisor, a bridge between our peoples. You understand humans in a way that I never can, and you understand Fenrithi in a way that most humans never will." His pale eyes were intense. "You have a gift for seeing past the surface of things, for finding the truth underneath. I could use someone like that at my side. I am not a diplomat. Neither am I. I'm a warrior who became a ruler. You are a scientist who became a symbol." Fenris smiled slightly. "Perhaps we are both learning new roles." Hannah thought about her small research station. She thought about her quiet life, her books, her solitude. She had been happy there, safe, hidden from the galaxy and its problems. But she had left that safety to walk into a storm. She had chosen to act when she could have stayed still. And that choice had changed everything. "Yes," she said. "I will help you." Fenris nodded. Something like relief flickered across his scarred face. "Good. Then we begin tomorrow. There is much to do." They stood together at the window, watching the sun sink below the horizon of an alien world. The sky darkened, and the stars came out. Thousands of them, millions of them, each one a sun with worlds of its own. Somewhere out there, Hannah knew, People were still suffering, still dying, still waiting for someone to help them. The galaxy was vast and full of darkness, but it was also full of light, full of people who chose kindness over cruelty, hope over fear, love over hate. People like Kova, who followed a human into the unknown because she had shown him what courage looked like. People like Fenris, who saw strength in gentleness and honored debts that others would have forgotten. People like Hannah, who had been nobody important until she decided that everyone was important. She touched the medallion around her neck. It was warm against her skin, a reminder of what she had done and what she had become. She was no longer an Omega. She was no longer the lowest. She was a bridge between worlds, a friend to wolves, a symbol of what humanity could be. And this was only the beginning. The stars waited overhead, patient and eternal. The galaxy stretched out in every direction, full of wonders and terrors and everything in between. And somewhere on a frozen moon, a small research station stood empty. Its door still marked with the scratches of 10 Fenrithi who had been dragged to safety by a woman who refused to let them die. Hannah smiled and turned away from the window. Fenris walked beside her. Kova fell into step behind them. Together, they went forward to meet whatever came next. The storm was over. The future was bright. And humanity had finally found its place among the stars.